Want to know a very simple way that you were manipulated and controlled to make goals happen for someone else at your expense? Now, for those of you going, oh, she's going to share with us how to manipulate somebody. What if manipulators listen to this? Oh, honey, they already know. It's about time you're empowered to understand how these things can take place and what you need to do to take your power back. Okay, so here's the steps. And think of you as a kid growing up, because all self sabotage will have its roots back in your childhood. All of it. Behavioral science tells us 80% of who we are as an adult was learned by age 8. Okay, so here's step 1. Create confusion. Why? Because when there's confusion, it doesn't matter what age we are, we automatically look for an authority figure to tell us what to do, someone to step into a level of leadership. Step number 2. The person who probably created the confusion says, here's the action I want you to take. And then you take it and they go, but that wasn't good enough. Step number 3. Now they give you the next action to take, and hopefully you'll be able to compensate for the fact that the first step wasn't enough. But guess what? It's still not enough. By the way, this is known as successive yes sets. If you want anybody to do anything, you have to start small. Remember when they talked about, gateway drugs? How they'll lead to something harder? Yeah. Well, that's pharmaceutical companies nowadays. I am not against medication assisting any of us. Every once in a while, I will get a migraine whenever I haven't been able to take the steps to mitigate it. And so, am I taking some migraine aspirin? Oh, you bet ya. But drug companies know about successive yes sets. And if they can get you to take a pill that is going to make the symptoms of whatever you've got going on go away, even though it will create additional symptoms, and you don't want to look at what was the cause of all of it, well, then they can get you to take the next drug to deal with the symptoms that the first drug started causing. Well, that successive yes sets can be turned around for your benefit. We all have a goal that we want to get healthier. Well, what's the smallest step that you can take right now that will take you out of your familiar zone, but get you into action? And we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but keep successive yes sets in mind. So they had you take that next action, but it still wasn't enough. Now, when you go through one experience, this is spaced repetition. When you go through one experience, and it wasn't enough, your subconscious, which runs all of your habits and patterns, and going after a goal, whether you get it or not, is simply a matter of habits and patterns, those behaviors. So you are like, okay, well, yeah, stuff happens. And then you do it a second time. And you're told by that authority figure who probably created the confusion to start with that it still wasn't enough. Now you're on point. And it happens a third time. Now you have a perceived inadequacy. And this can happen really quick. This can actually happen over a matter of hours. And when you have a perceived inadequacy, it's personal. It's about you. Well, that can't be left out in the open because you'll be shamed. Listen to the episode on guilt versus shame around that. And so now you are developing a belief that you have to overperform in order to cover up the shame, which is exactly where the manipulator wanted you. Because now you will overperform for them, typically at your own expense. So you develop this belief that you have to overperform, and beliefs develop our identity. Before age 13, you're like a sponge. You're going to absorb whatever you've been put into. And then after age 13, what's known as your executive functioning center, your prefrontal cortex right behind your forehead, that is responsible for decisions. That prefrontal cortex says, okay, I've absorbed enough. Now I'm just going to continue to operate on what I've already absorbed. Oh, bad idea for those of us who were raised in households where there was constant confusion, and it would get even worse. We didn't know what was going to come next. We were always walking on eggshells. And maybe you were raised in a very healthy environment, but then a manipulator came along and pulled you into a relationship, late teens, early 20s, to where they did this to you gradually. It's known as love bombing, and then devaluation, and then discarding, and then they do what's known as DARVO. They deny that they've done anything wrong. They're very passive aggressive in how they accuse you, and they RVO, they reverse the victim and offender, which is weaponizing the best parts against you because they know you're a compassionate, caring person who puts your virtues onto others. You project, which keeps you from seeing who they really are. And so you're like, oh my gosh, what if I am the one? I just need to try harder. Been there too. Okay. So beliefs develop identity, and behavior always follows identity. But if you get somebody to change their behavior, you get them to change their identity, and you get them to change their beliefs. This can be done in a healthy way, but usually it is done to move you into a position where you're going to experience continued pain, which then turns into suffering. And at some point, you may recognize that you've been betrayed. I'm trying to stop you from having to go all the way down in the pit if I can. But if you are there, hey, we can get you out. All right. As a side note, when this is happening, when you're being manipulated and life is going to turn into pain and suffering, because, oh my gosh, no matter how you overperform, it is never good enough. Yeah, well, now you are going to develop coping behaviors that are going to soothe you temporarily. But because you're not good enough, it's all personal. In the long term, they're going to hurt you. You may use food, you may use money, you may use relationships, but you're going to do something that has you feeling okay, but it's not going to last. Why? Because the manipulation isn't stopping. Okay, so here's what I want you to know. Whomever controls the beliefs controls the person. Time to take your power back. So you have a goal that you want to achieve. We all do. We all have dreams, wishes, hopes. Think about one of them right now. In fact, if you've got what I call a dominance hierarchy, pick one of the top 3. Okay, now you've made a decision. You're going to go for that. Here's where the problem comes in at. Automatically, your subconscious is going to go, there needs to be confusion. Because when you made a decision to take an action based on what someone else suggested to you, because there was confusion, You were made wrong. Oh, by the way, this is straight out of the playbook for any prisoner of war during a conflict to flip them to the other side. It's also what happened when we went into lockdowns, in case you haven't noticed that pattern just yet. Side note, anybody ever tries to shame you over your behavior, you are dealing with a manipulator and you want to get away from them as far as possible and know that what they're telling you to do is based on how they're going to benefit. Hey, we all want to be able to take care of each other. We all want to see each other succeed. But when shaming's involved, under the guise of guilt, it's being done not for your benefit, but because someone else wants power. And then you got to be careful, because once they get that power, they don't like giving it back. Okay, so you make a decision to go after your goal. And now there's confusion. Oh my gosh, I need to go to an authority figure. And maybe you do reach out to someone. But unless that someone is well versed on the steps of how to give pain a purpose for progress, it's very likely that they are going to tell you how they achieve success. And that's going to cause more problems because how their personality achieved it isn't going to be unique to who you are as an individual. Yes, there are always going to be steps in a process, but they've got to be customized to you. And so there's now a little bit of chaos. Oh my gosh. See, I knew I wasn't good enough. And by the way, now we're getting into learned helplessness. So learned helplessness has 4 P's. First, it's personal. It's about you. Second, it's permanent. It's always going to be this way. Pervasive. It starts infiltrating all areas of your life. And then power under, power over. In your subconscious mind, which again runs all of your habits and patterns, it doesn't use language. Language belongs to the prefrontal cortex, who made the decision, but then had to turn it over to the subconscious mind to carry it out because it's based on existing habits and patterns. So the subconscious mind uses symbols. And whenever you have experienced a loss of power in the past, you're going to experience the symbolism of you as really small and tiny, and you're in protective mode. And whatever it is that is taking control of you is looming very large over you, like the boogeyman. In fact, it's going to be dark. It's going to be, it feels like it's frozen. It's going to be black and white. And if there's any sound, it's going to be very ominous. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know my pup has idiopathic epilepsy, which means that they don't know why he has seizures. And the second seizure he ever had, and keep in mind, he's 10 months old and he's 120 plus pounds. He's a big boy, okay? And I'm single, I'm by myself. The second seizure he ever had was in the middle of the night after my electricity had gone off. Tree fell down in the neighborhood. And so I woke up earlier in the night because it was cold. I woke up about 2:30, and that's when I discovered electricity is off. Okay, great. 2 hours later, he's in a seizure. What did I have to do to regain power over that experience? I used my imagination, visualization, thinking about the room being illuminated with all these like sparkling stars that were falling down almost like snowflakes, but it was illuminated. Okay, so I had to add light. I had to add movement. So while he was having his seizure, because there's nothing you can do for a dog who's having a seizure while they're having it, except make sure that nothing's going to fall on them or that they can't knock anything over on themselves. I'm walking around and I'm singing. I'm singing a hymn, okay? And I'm giving promises about my faith, all right? So I've got light, I've got movement, I've got sound. And I was able to move through an experience that could have been quite traumatizing in a really healthy way. Okay, so chaos ensues. First, you made the decision, and then there was confusion. And maybe there's confusion, you just don't even know what step that you should take. Well, the subconscious mind, once it starts heading a certain direction, it goes, okay, how can we speed things up? Successive yes sets going into the pit. Okay, so now there's chaos, and this is when your system is feeling dysregulated, and there's nervousness, there's stress, there's tension, and then there's crisis because, oh my gosh, you've tried to do this before and it just doesn't work out, and all of this falls underneath the heading of drama. So you can either make decisions based on a past pattern of pain, drama, and it's drama of deferred hope. And deferred hope makes the heart sick. Deferred hope says that I want things to be different, but there's no track record. There's nothing I can trust. And if you go back to part 1, I talk about trust and the different levels. We have to get you to trust yourself. Those that you relied on to take care of you and protect you, they lied to you. They betrayed you. And they used you for their benefit. So decisions that you make based on the drama of deferred hope are nothing more than wishes and dreams that fall under fantasy, not the type of dreams where we're going for a goal to actually get it. We need you to make decisions based on your destiny. But to do that, you need to put a demand on your faith. And I'm not talking religious faith. I'm talking about faith that says, I've got a dream, I've got a goal. Because faith simply means to have hope in something that's not yet seen and then to take consistent action on that hope. Because remember, behavior, can change identity, and identity upgrades beliefs or downgrades them. Okay. So you need to decide this goal that you have, is it in alignment with your destiny of who you need to become in order to have the life that you desire? Because you cannot stay at the same identity, because if you do, you'll get those goals, but then you're not going to be able to keep them. Every blessing has a burden, not baggage, but a burden. And the burden says you have to become strong enough in order to keep your blessing. And that's what faith is. Faith is a muscle. Faith says, I am taking consistent action in order to get this action that's going to take me out of my familiar zone. So it's not going to be comfortable, but it's not so much to overwhelm me. I will talk to people in a complimentary coaching call, and they'll go, okay, yeah, so I am deciding with logic that I can work with you, say 2 or 3 months out. I'm like, okay, you reach out to me when you're ready. I know very well they're not putting demand on their faith to make that happen, but I'm not there to coach them on that. But you're getting the bonus of it right now. This is what I do with my clients privately. Faith is a muscle. You can believe for a healing and have faith in it. And I go, okay, tell me how you've healed in the past. And we have to look at that and we have to stretch it just a little bit. So somebody says, yes, I had to go in and I had to have surgery, but I've decided not to do that this time. Okay, well, have you ever healed yourself at this level? Have you ever worked with the universal power, your higher power, however you perceive it, in order to heal? Because if not, then this is a fantasy. So I'm not saying that you can't heal that way, but there might be some steps. Maybe instead of surgery, you need to take the medication that they're telling you, because faith will meet you where you're at, and then it'll go, come here, just a few more steps. Come on, let's move out of your familiar zone. Some people call it a comfort zone. There's nothing comfortable about being stuck and struggling and suffering and sabotaging. So faith says, come out here just a little bit and I'll meet you there. But now you've got to take the consistent action to keep me and strengthen me. When I work with my clients on weight reduction, I'll have them start with something as simple as 60 seconds of brisk physical activity, as long as the doctor says it's okay, every single day the first week. They can do more if they want, but that's got to be the minimum. Second week, 2 minutes. Third week, 4 minutes. Fourth week, 8 minutes. Fifth week, 16 minutes. Sixth week, 30 minutes. Yeah. And I know if they continue that on for another 7 weeks, 13 weeks total, 3 months, 91 days of 30 minutes consistently, that their identity as well as their beliefs will have upgraded. And here's the great thing, learned helplessness can turn into learned success because it's pervasive. It starts spreading out to every single area of your life. So you need to start putting a demand on your faith. You need to say, there's something in my environment right now. I don't have to wait. There's something in my environment right now that I could be doing. In the Old Testament, the woman went to the prophet and said, hey, husband died and we got debts and now they're getting ready to, to throw my kids into debtor prison. And what am I going to do? And he's like, okay, yeah. Instead of curling up and dying, how about this? What do you have on hand? And she's like, a little bit of oil. And he's like, that's enough. What have you got right now? Put a demand to be able to see. Your RAS, your reticular activating system, is the go-between on your conscious and your subconscious. Your conscious made the decision that you want to move towards this goal. Your subconscious is going, yeah, but we got patterns and habits that say, oh no, there's going to be drama. And then the only time we're going to make things happen is when we overperform for other people. Your RAS is the go-between. So the RAS is going, okay, yeah, hey, I hear that. But you know what? Let's find something we can do right now. Right now, small. Let's begin small. But let's find something we can do right now to begin to trust ourselves. Okay. So, step 1, goal. Step 2 is, what is the smallest step that you can take in order to make this happen? Step 3, you probably are going to have to seek out an authority figure. Whether that's me or somebody else, that's going to be up to you. Why is that? Well, because somebody else created this pattern of pain, crisis, suffering, betrayal, which means somebody else is going to need to be involved to help you get past it, to get through it, to get over it, to get to what's on the other side. I'd be honored if we could at least have a conversation to see if I'm the best fit for you. But keep in mind, the only way we grow is in relationships with other people. Neuroplasticity means that our brain has the ability to grow, to adapt, or to shrink and maladapt. It's time that you give that pain a purpose for progress. Let's chat and see if I'm the right fit for you. So until we get together, blessings on your journey. because you're going to spend more time in the journey than you are at the destination. So you might as well make it beautiful.